Happy anniversary, everybody. As of today, when this episode comes out, Overwatch has been out for 1 year from the official release. I understand there was beta, but from the official release, it's 1 year old, and it's the first birthday of Overwatch. So this is going to be the fifth and final installment of Snapshots in Time, and it is finally time that we actually just talk about Overwatch. So in case anybody didn't see the first 4 episodes, go watch them before you watch this one. But in case you're not going to anyways, the show is basically, the premise for the other episodes was I talked to various experts about different games that they were involved in, and we kind of went over some of the early histories and drew some comparisons to Overwatch, and tried to reach a conclusion about where Overwatch is going, and how healthy it is, so to say, for a game that is 1 year old. So now I figured I'd talk to somebody within Overwatch. So I've talked with many other experts in other games, and now I'm going to talk to Harsha anyways. Harsha, he is a so-called journalist, I guess, or something like that. He writes for Over.gg. He does some, I don't know, shit on YouTube. Philosophical differences, go watch it, because I'm in it. But yeah, we're going to talk about Overwatch. But Harsha, we're kind of fucked, huh? Because Overwatch is a dying game, right?
Yeah. Also, you went pretty light on that intro. I thought I was going to get roasted harder.
Oh, don't worry. We still got the rest of the show to go. All right, so of course we are just 1 year into the official release of Overwatch, but as you mentioned before we started the show, Overwatch as an esport didn't even begin when the game came out. It started back in the beta.
Yeah, so the way Overwatch kind of originated, I think this happens with a lot of esports too, is that people, they got into the beta and then they started forming teams and playing together. And what really enabled this was the Gosu Gamer Weeklies, which started out, and that was kind of the only tournaments that were going on within Overwatch other than like a few sporadic LANs at the time.
Yeah.
And so people took these really seriously. There were opportunities to earn money and actually try and get into an esport. And it served as kind of like a melting pot. I know a lot of people say this, but Overwatch is kind of like that melting pot where people that either are too old for other games or just didn't make it in those other games or
like
were pros. Yeah, exactly. Where they kind of came in and made it in a new game. And so I think this is kind of why people had that competitive drive from even before day one.
Yeah, and of course, back in the day, those Gosu Gamer Weeklies were they were a big deal. Like you said, people took them very seriously. We weighed the results really heavily. And obviously now, they kind of went away, and the Alienware Monthly Melee, unfortunately, kind of something happened with that. I'm not entirely sure everything behind the scenes with that, but we're kind of starting to lose these online tournaments, and hopefully we're moving towards LAN events. So currently in Overwatch, the biggest event is OGN Apex, but the hope, of course, is that in 3-4 months, something like that, that's no longer the case, right?
Yeah, Overwatch League, obviously. And, I mean, so obviously the way this has worked is we went from a ton of online events all the way to, kind of no online events in the horizon and, 1 or 2 LAN events outside of Apex, in the visible future.
Yeah.
Obviously, Overwatch has developed a lot within this time, and, these are very big ambitions. I don't think there's no way we would have developed into an Overwatch League naturally without the Blizzard stuff. So yeah, a lot of changes incoming.
Not within a year and a half of the game officially being out. And this was one of the things that if you guys did watch the other episodes that Monte Cristo brought up, which was it's not that necessarily that Overwatch he thinks is growing at a reasonable rate, essentially, for kind of the esports ecosystem now. But when you compare it to other games, like in that episode when we talked about League of Legends, it was League of Legends didn't get the LCS until, the 3rd competitive season, right, in Season 3. And it also took, I think, 2 years of the game being out before Season 1 even happened. So Overwatch, in terms of, how heavily the developer is pushing it as an esport, is definitely ahead. But one of the things that we still happens in Overwatch in many events is we're getting kind of these basement tournaments, where people are casting it from their bedroom, people are casting it from a shed, and sideshow shed, who knows? And this is a thing that so far the community has actually really loved, right?
Yeah, in a sense, and I think it's because it really started with those Gosu Gamer Weeklies. It all comes back from there. So obviously, this started out with Hexagrams and ZP being kind of the only Overwatch casters, and it might seem unfair to say, but it literally was the case. They were the only people that casted Overwatch at the time, and so people got really close with them. They got familiar with them, and they kind of there's kind of like a comfort to it, I think,
Yeah,
in
definitely.
seeing the casters that you've known for so long, at every event, and especially these online ones where they're a bit more relaxed. People
Yeah.
can banter more, they can meme about Twitch chat and all of that. So
They actually read
yeah,
Twitch chat.
yeah, actually read Twitch chat. So yeah, I think people really do like these kind of basement
Yeah.
events, as you called them, and I think it's more to do with comfort. And
Mm,
I mean, obviously, I think things will change down the line when I think there's going to be like an added era of professionalism, so to speak.
of course.
With Apex, we have that, and coming up with the Overwatch League, where I
Hmm.
think it's really hinted that they're going to draw a lot from actual traditional sports. So I
Yep.
think, in a sense, we might be losing some of that, but I think presumably we're going to have also an open circuit.
That's true.
So yeah, maybe we'll see more. Maybe we'll see stuff like Summit and like Takeover. Obviously, is
Hmm.
going to happen soon. So there will still be opportunities for the more laid back
Yeah.
environment.
So, and that's one of the things that Doa, when he did the episode with me for StarCraft 2, and Monty when he did League of Legends, is they both talked about how heavily they believe that Overwatch really needs like really fantastic observers. And it was at the time of recording this, maybe 2 or 3 days ago, it was Blizzard put up the job posting for for some people who they want to be career Overwatch League observers, and all they want them to do is practice observing Overwatch, figure out how to watch the game, and work with the casters specifically to be able to broadcast the game better. And that's one of the things that has, I think, early on in Overwatch was maybe a criticism that people had. There was that early complaint that Overwatch was difficult to watch for whatever reason. And unfortunately, one of the reasons was that I think, in my mind, that these basement tournaments sometimes, unfortunately, the casters kind of stuck spectating, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure you spectated Overwatch, looking at games in general, but it is a very hard game to spectate. There's a lot going on. There's 12 characters. That's more than pretty much every other game that you can. I think. I mean, other than TF2, I guess. But
Every real game.
okay, there we go. Banter. Every real game. Well, in general, it's just a very hard game to spectate,
Yeah.
especially because there's so many particles, there are so many just abilities going on, things going on around the map, and I think that there's definitely a skill in learning how to observe these games. And I mean, yeah, this is definitely a full-time kind of thing. This is something you
Yeah.
have to practice and stay on top of.
Yeah, so that was something Doa said, or maybe it was Monty. I can't remember, but they both talked about spectating a lot. And I guess Apex had 4 dedicated spectators, and
And
the World Cup had 6. And I would kind of imagine that the way that Overwatch League is going to be more towards the World Cup format, which I think is fantastic because the World Cup had some of the best just like graphics and some of the best spectating, as well as because I know. Oh, it was Doa. It was Doa said that he was going to make sure to work really hard with the spectators
yeah.
to tell them what he wanted to see on the screen at different points in time. So I'm really looking forward to like some awesome spectating to go along with all of the great casters that we're starting to get in Overwatch. Some that are kind of more homegrown, and some that we're kind of taking from other games.
So in terms of, I've actually a lot of thoughts on the spectating experience.
Go for it.
And so I was actually talking to Doe about this
Hmm.
myself a few days ago, and we both came to the conclusion we need a lot more third person view in Overwatch, and we also
Yeah.
want to see. So I think first person in general is
Uh-huh.
kind of the primary thing that we use in Overwatch, and I think the reason because of that is you want to kind of live vicariously through the people you see on the screen, right? You want to see the game how it's being kind of played from your home. But I also think that a lot of the time you're wasting a lot of time by staying in first person.
Yeah.
So I think that you want to see first person when you're seeing like a really nice mechanical display,
Mm.
but you also want to see third person when it comes to CC abilities, when it comes to team fights, positioning, stuff like that. So I think there are areas we can improve on within Overwatch, and I think that I think it'll happen, especially with Monty and Doa working with them.
Yeah. Oh shoot, I had something to say on that. No, I forgot it. Doe was talking about spectating. I don't know. Whatever. All right. So obviously, in many, many, many other esports, we end. Not the story necessarily ends, but the story goes towards, trends towards, and oftentimes does end at the last chapter says, and the Koreans win everything.
Yep.
So where are we in Overwatch, Harsha? Especially considering last night's games.
All right, not there yet.
Those games where Rogue had some very unfortunate mistakes, some just like small stuff.
That was
Yeah.
classic Throg, as we say.
Yeah.
No, look, I think that in those other games, specifically, I guess StarCraft you'd mention and League of Legends you mentioned,
Yeah.
I think that at that point Koreans had gotten ahead mechanically and on a team-wide level. I don't think they've gotten ahead mechanically within Overwatch.
Yeah.
I do think that there is a sense of maybe complacency within the West, specifically within North America, but I think in the West in general, in that
Just North America. Come on. We can be real.
But like put it this way, in Korea they're so heavily focused on teamwork, on communication, on giving up, sacrifice. In America,
and it is a cultural thing.
Absolutely, and it's because they're raised this way. Whereas over here, I don't think we respect coaches as much. We don't practice as hard. We tend
to be very individualistic. And this is one of the things that I don't know if you've seen it, but I know I've heard about it, at least about some Overwatch pros in North America. I'm not gonna name any names, but I've heard people who apparently like only think about the game kind of like in a 1v1 sense, right?
Yeah.
And they don't think about the team sense, and for obvious reasons, that's pretty detrimental.
Well, it doesn't matter in this game, does it? Because it's not played 1v1. It's played 6v6.
But that's my point. It's having a player in your team who has that mindset is always going to be detrimental. It's just going to be.
Yeah. You do need to very much think about this game on a team level because it's all about, strategy, coordination, et cetera, et cetera. Like people will always talk about how it's an ult simulator, and to an extent, yes, there are times where you can talk about that, but no, it's not an ult simulator. Okay.
Well, okay, I'm going to agree with you. It's not. Yeah. And because if you go back, this is a thought that I think I might have expressed to you before. I know I've started writing about it lately. And if you go back to season 1 of Apex, that's what it was. It was a death ball game where it was a very slow, control game, right? It was all about the Reinhardt play, and that's where teams like Envious were, especially after the Diva patch. Coco just was like, fuck all of you, and just won because he was such a smart Reinhardt. Still is, of course, but he was very good at kind of the slow, methodical, outplaying the enemy Reinhardt, getting that massive earth shatter, and then you just kind of win. But it was these death ball games where it's like, where it really was like, this team has more ults, there's a pretty good chance they win. And now, with the prevalence of dive, we're getting to this super crazy tempo game, right? Where you can come back from ultimate deficits really easy, because it's easier to punish mispositions, because you need such small margins now to find those picks, and it's crazy.
And that's the thing, I think it really depends on the metagame, and this is why I've always been a big proponent of keep 2-2-2 the standard and then balance towards the attack heroes, the offensive heroes, in a sense. Because I think that when you go to these triple tank, quadruple tank metagames, the game gets a bit too slow, and it does become kind of that farm ult simulator where it's more about, what you have, and it's less about skill play, in a sense.
Yeah,
I do think... And I think this is both from a play perspective and from a spectator perspective, because I don't want to see just like a Zarya, a Diva, yeah, exactly. It's horrible every game. But I want to see the McCree, I want to see the Genji, I want to see Soldier, like people popping heads basically.
Yeah, no disagreements. Yeah, that's I think for me that's the really fun stuff. But as long as we're going along with kind of how the game has changed, and especially within, from Apex Season 1 to even, middle of Apex Season 2 where we started seeing this come out, that's like, what, like 4 months, 3 months? And, from Apex Season 1 to now, 6 or 7 months, the game's, drastically different. So do you want to talk about a little bit how you think the game has changed in the early history?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, we've seen new heroes, especially Ana. Very big. I've actually, I've written articles about this. I know other people have written articles, made videos about this. Ana's basically controlled the metagame for a solid 6 months.
Basically ever since she came out.
Yep, up until I would say now. Now I think this is a period where the metagame's in like a pretty good state of diversity. You see a lot of things. Overwatch
Zenyatta
very much
is outpowering her significantly.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like 75% to 25 or something like that.
And it's because they have these, they have different properties, right? Yeah. Zenyatta enables, you can get one target really quickly because of the Discord orb, whereas
or
Ana,
if you're Unco, you just kill everyone yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You carry the whole game, but and don't play Mercy if you're Unco.
Yes.
Look,
yes, AKM, you were very good at Pharah, but Unco is better at Zenyatta.
This is definitely a side note, but I think AKM's potential is wasted on Farah.
That's true.
Regardless. All right. Basically,
soldiers.
I do think that the game has changed in a lot of ways because people really accepted the 2-2-2 before.
Yeah.
They didn't really push past it. They kind of just accepted, you know, you need a Zarya every game, you need a Lucio every game, you need a Reinhardt every game. Maybe sometimes we'll run dive with the Winston instead of the Reinhardt, but it was very much this kind of standard playstyle. And then people really started to diversify, I think. And this actually started with, believe it or not, a team called Ninjas in Pajamas, I believe, SGO4 at the time or something like that. They had this weird name. It was wacky, but
Is that what it was before?
yeah, something weird like that.
Okay.
But basically, the way this team played, they really favored the tanks, and you know, surprise, they're still doing that to this day. They have the same exact lineup, but pretty much what they did is they just played a death ball competition, and nobody knew how to beat them, and so come Overwatch Open, this was going to be the metagame. This is what everybody thought they were going to play. And then all of a sudden, people realize, if you put a bunch of tanks together, you know, who kills tanks? Reaper kills tanks. Yeah. And so they figured out, hey, you can put Reaper on these teams to counter those teams, and then you could also give them the nano boost, which at the time had speed, and you know,
50% move speed.
It just enabled him to destroy teams. It was ridiculous. So,
and then
yeah.
we went, what's good against that? May.
Yeah. And so it was this huge rock paper scissors game kind of, and people call Overwatch a rock paper scissors game in a sense too. I don't think it is that way anymore. Definitely not. But the metagame has evolved a lot, right? We went from the Reaper to, you know, tax visor metagame to, you know, now it's kind of the dive metagame, which is you know, I like it a lot.
Oh, I do too. Yeah. I was rolling my eyes at tac visor metagame.
No, yeah, don't worry. But yeah, tac visor metagame. Let's talk about that because that's where you just give soldiers a tac visor and then he runs away from the D.Va all game.
Yeah, no. That's what Bishop said, right? You just soldier presses Q and D.Va just comes out of nowhere.
Right
into his face. Yeah. So,
yeah.
On the metagame, the part that I'm so disappointed in you that you skipped over is still the single biggest change to the Overwatch metagame was the introduction of one hero limit.
Yeah. I forgot about this.
Yeah.
So this actually happened back in season 1, and actually, if you, I think you bought the game on release, right? So everybody
Pre-order.
knows about. Yeah, there we go. Everybody knows about the first competitive season and how just terrible it was because you could pick any hero like. You could have 6 of the same hero. You know, stalling potential was stupid. You could have all these tracers on the payload, all the divas or whatever. It was just the game was worse at this point in time. And Blizzard actually was very hesitant to actually do anything about this. And the pro community just complained a lot about this. And you know,
like they always do.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they're right.
No, sometimes.
But basically what happened was the Gosu weeklies, I believe, actually started running the one hero limit. We saw these really cool metagames develop.
Was it? I think, or
it was.
I can't remember if it was the Alienwares that started it, and then the Gosus followed.
It was one of them because both of them were run on
one
the
of them.
Gosu.
Yeah.
Both of them were run on the Gosu channel. So.
That's right. Yeah.
But basically, what happened was we started to see, you know, this cool metagame develop. People thought it was much healthier, and you know, people were just. Yeah, we were talking to Blizzard about this, and they're like, yeah, you know what, maybe we can, we'll change up the game. We'll make it one hero limit, and that's what we've seen since then. It's been a significantly better game mode, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. You mentioned how awful Season 1 was. You want me to make Season 1 even worse in your mind? Huh? Oh, no. Well, Coin Flip was awful as well. But you know, you want to, I'm going to make you hate me right now. You know what I played in Season 1?
Okay, let's go for it.
No, what do you think I played in Season 1? Come on.
I feel like you were a Mei main.
No, I was a Mercy main.
Even worse.
I actually was, though. And the reason why, and I'll give everyone the reason why, is because in Dungeons & Dragons, I always played a Favored Soul. And Favored Souls were healers who had big angel wings. So I logged into Overwatch and I saw Mercy. I'm like, okay. And also, because I immediately knew, upon looking at her kit, that Resurrection would be really fucking powerful. Because to be fair, Resurrection is still very powerful. Anyways,
and it's only gotten stronger.
Because now they buffed it. Now you randomly get invincible. Alright, so one of the topics that you kind of briefly touched on earlier is that sometimes player attitudes are difficult to manage, not just in Overwatch, guys. In all games, player attitudes can be difficult to manage, and not just in North America. I know that's a joke that I make very often, but it is. You know, there's always going to be problem players, especially when you consider that most players are teenagers, right? You're going to get some people who have a little bit of teenage angst, or they're young adults who are gamers and maybe don't get out and socialize as much as they should, so they don't, have the greatest social skills. So one of the most important things that a lot of people really believe in for developing an esports team that is just starting in Overwatch is coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was going to say, because you, my friend, are technically an Overwatch coach.
Yeah. We'll say technically. I've coached a bit, but I think that there are people better suited for that, especially because I'm 21 now, and so
Woo,
yeah, 21.
Happy birthday!
I had to check my age right there, but yeah, I think part of the problem was that people weren't thinking about coaching in that all these people were like that were playing the game, or I think the average age of Overwatch players probably
It's
really high.
older.
It's a bit older, yes.
And you know what? Actually, you know what the reason that Monty brought up, and I think is actually definitely very true, is when you think about what it takes to have a computer that runs League of Legends. I can literally plug a fucking monitor into a goddamn toaster oven and play League of Legends.
Yeah.
You can, right? I can plug. I can. Like, I can play League of Legends on a fucking potato. But to play Overwatch, you need not, the highest end stuff, but relatively a high-end computer. And that's just not something we see, younger players have. Because it does cost a lot of money. I know, I just built my PC. It was too expensive.
So you know what's funny about this? I actually had a MacBook Pro at the time, didn't have another computer, and I had to I basically found a copy of Windows 10 online that I could get as a student, and then I installed that, and then I bought Overwatch, obviously, installed it on my partitioned hard drive, and then I realized that within 20 minutes of playing any time, any session, my computer overheated and just shut down. So my solution
You're playing on
to
a
this,
MacBook.
yeah, my solution to this, to get 28 FPS games, because
Ooh.
I needed my fix of Overwatch, is that I got a giant Ziploc bag.
I remember this.
Filled it with ice and put it under my laptop, and I played Overwatch on a bag of ice. And after about an hour, all that ice would melt and it would just spill on my desk. So I found out the best solution to this was I created a mechanism where I would trap the water in with a towel. And so, look, I had to get my fix in.
I forgot about all this, actually, because now you have a real computer. But it's actually true, though, right? And it is something that restricts generally the age towards a little bit older audience, as well as, unfortunately, probably restricts the player base a little bit.
Yeah, this isn't something I considered, but yeah, definitely. And I also think it's because people saw its potential as an esport. I mean, I think Monty definitely has a point there, right? But I think people saw this as an opportunity to get into another esport without the barrier of entry that other games have from, all the pros and players have years of experience, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So they could just jump into here. And I think that's another reason that you see the age is older. But I guess the original topic you were bringing up was that
coaching.
Coaching, obviously. I think part of it is because people didn't respect the people that weren't players of the game. Pretty much, they didn't respect their game knowledge or really their authority to that extent. So you saw very few teams had coaches, and if they did, the coaches were glorified VOD recorders, not really. Exactly. So they weren't really doing any important work. Now we're starting to see people from other games coming in as coaches. We've seen, StarCraft 2 pros or League of Legends coaches and stuff like that. So I think people are starting to realize the value of coaching, and I think this all comes back to Season 1 of Apex.
Internet Hulk moving to coach, I think, is fantastic. He's a little bit older. He's been trying to get into esports for a very long time. He played I can't remember off the top of my head, but other console games, right?
World's first challenger in League of Legends.
And he was in season 4. Yeah. He was but he was a very good player in League of Legends. So he understands something kind of what it takes. And he's a little bit older. He's somebody who has the respect of the players. So for him to go into coaching makes total perfect sense.
Wait, fun fact.
Okay.
Rogue without Internet Hulk is 34-0. Rogue with Internet Hulk is 1-1. You don't need a coach, dude. To be fair, they do have another coach.
No, you know what the actual problem is? Rogue brought on another German guy.
Yeah, it's true. They didn't learn from their previous mistake.
From their previous mistake. That took you a sec. But coaching in Overwatch is something that's still definitely very young. Many of the coaches are people who don't really have coaching experience. They're not people who were sports coaches, which would probably be ideal. They're either the same age or younger than the players. ideally, I think you'd have a little bit older coach, maybe in his late 20s, because somebody in their 30s needs to start making real money, if we're being real.
That's what the Overwatch League is for, man.
Yeah. That's true. But it's hard to convince them now. And ideally has coaching experience in another game. So maybe when League of Legends dies in 2 years, we can get some League of Legends coaches who can come into Overwatch. And there's a lot of people who hear that and they go, well, why the hell would I want a League of Legends coach, right? They haven't been following Overwatch, right? They've been, they spent the last however many years of their life completely dedicated to League of Legends, right? And especially in a couple of years where, we have people who have dedicated their, last 3 years, 4 years of their lives to Overwatch. Why wouldn't I want one of those? And the answer is because a coach is not an analyst.
Yeah, and so I think that the coach has very different responsibilities, right? They keep the team in order. They keep personalities and egos in check. They schedule okay, that's a manager's job.
No, they can do scheduling.
Yeah. Okay, so they have a lot of different responsibilities, I would say, than the analyst, where the analyst is very much focused on the gameplay aspect, right? And they craft strategies, and the coach makes sure they implement them. So they're two different jobs. People were really hiring people like one for both of them.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of a problem.
Yeah. So to be clear, though, the best coaches, like the absolute perfect coach, probably will be able to do some of the analyst work. Will be able to understand the game, right?
Absolutely.
And the best analyst will be able to help the coach manage personalities, right? Like there will be that little bit of crossover, but to point out that the focus of the roles is very different, and that's why I know I have the opinion that you could in theory bring in somebody who was maybe a football coach, right, or a soccer coach or a baseball coach, whatever, but just understands managing young adults, especially in some of these sports that are primarily dominated by men. Oh, sorry guys. Bring it in and dealing with young guys. Oh, whatever, shut up. Young guys who have kind of ego conflicts with each other because they want to win. They're naturally competitive people, and there can be conflicts from that. So bringing in somebody who has that real life experience would be like awesome. They don't need to know everything about Overwatch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and they could learn too.
Yeah, and that's true. They would have to learn. Just saying that they're never going to watch Overwatch. I'm going to come in and just yell at people when they... No, you have to watch Overwatch still. That's true. All right. And this was a topic... this next question, that is a topic that I touched on in some of the other videos. That in this one, I don't know if we're at the really at the point to kind of touch on. But in many other esports, you can kind of point to either that one team or that one player who really totally just, kind of changed the way everybody looked at the game, right? Doa gave tons of examples in StarCraft. Obviously for League of Legends we talked about Faker. I can't remember who Stucci said. I don't follow Dota 2. Sorry guys. Yeah, and Thorn's episode actually hasn't been recorded yet. So, but there's been those players, right, or those teams who just did something different, so radically different that the game forever was changed. And right now,
I know where to go with this.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. All right. So can I give 3 answers?
Who have changed? So 3 answers that you think are importantly are going to change the game forever, not change the game now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Change the game irreparably, right? I'm not saying change the metagame in a little bit because otherwise it's like rogue.
Okay. Then I'll give one answer then.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with Ryu Jae-hong, and I mean that's weird because people don't really see. Like, I personally don't praise Ryu Jae-hong that often, but I think that Ryu Jae-hong has made it. Let's put it this way: he's made it cool to be a sport. Nobody was seeing
so cool. No, okay, he really has.
Yeah, but I think the only experience that people saw with the carry support was Unko at first, but Ryu Jae-hong kind of took it to the next level because Unko wasn't proficient at Ana before. He was more of a Zenyatta player, but Ryu Jae-hong really adapted to the Ana really well, in my opinion. And during Apex Season 1, and I guess potentially APAC, but I don't think he was as standout there because the rest of Lunatic High wasn't as standout. Yes. But I think he really stood out as the player to watch. He's a superstar on Lunatic High. He enables everybody on that team, and importantly, this is people's first experience seeing a support actually carry games, and I think that he's made it in a kind of made a whole culture around seeing this the support carry the games, and it's not something that I think the only other example I can think of is Unko, honestly.
Yeah.
And
So the one thing I'll point out, but the difference between Unko and Ryu Hong is that Unko, when I think about Unko carrying a game, I think about like what he did last night, where in like a clutch team fight, he just randomly gets a quad kill, right? He just kills 4 people, you know, kind of on his own. He hits a bunch of headshots. But when I think about Ryu Hong carrying a fight, I don't necessarily think about him doing a ton of damage, right? I think about him just like the enemy Genji comes in with Nano Blade, you're asleep.
sickest sleep dart ever.
Sickest sleep dart ever.
My favorite memory of him is actually, it's not even that really like that big of a competitive memory. It's the actually you were probably at this game. It's when they played Russia in the World Cup, and when it was on King's Row, I remember Shadowburn jumps out of spawn, literally 3 shots to the head, or I mean 3 shots to the body.
Oh my god, that's right.
3 shots in a row and he's dead already. Like just the very beginning of the game. If you haven't seen it, probably like go back and watch it, people. But like it's this guy's like sick. Like he hits everything. And the funny thing is he has probably, I think, the lowest sensitivity of anybody in Overwatch.
Yeah,
like,
have you seen those clips where so because he plays on one of the really big mouse pads, and just to do a simple like watch the Winston go over his head and stuff, he moves his mouse from the bottom of the mouse pad all the way up to the top of, you know, this like 14-inch whatever mouse pad, brings it all the way back down around. And it's just crazy huge arm motion, right? But it's because it lets him be so precise.
And that's why he hits all those sleep darts, I would imagine.
Well, also because, you know, he's a god.
Also because he's good. Yeah.
Because, you know, but he does stuff. I mean, yes, he's very skilled at killing people on his own, and that's one of the things, you know, people always say, how do you dive Ryu Hong? Well, especially Ryu Hong and Toby, they're both pretty good at, you know, surviving dive. And yeah, he's good at killing people, but like his biotic grenades are just like absolutely insane. You know, many Anas have gotten very good now, but I just don't think anybody does it quite as well. But the big thing is as regularly.
He's definitely the person that has pushed Ana the farthest out of anybody in the world.
And the critical thing to say is because people can also now say, well, what about Miro? Miro has also pushed Winston the farthest, and there's tons of other examples, right?
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, though, is that weirdly enough, Ana's probably the hero with the kit that can be pushed the farthest.
And the other thing about her is that she's been relevant for literally for ever since release. They gave her like a slight buff after release, but basically ever since then.
Yeah, changed her. They gave her a bigger magazine and increased her fire rate. Yeah,
yeah.
And then since then, it's been nerfs.
Yeah, but essentially, she's, you know, she drove the metagame herself for, I would say, 6 months, and now she's just still just an important part of it.
Yeah, and now she's not driving the metagame necessarily, but she's still very good. You know, there's no denying that. And
we still see Ryu Hong pulling out the Zenyatta and doing very well on it.
Yeah.
So I think this guy's definitely set up to change the game and like continue being that top player. As long as he doesn't, you know, he needs to avoid the tennis elbow. That's all I'll say about those giant, you know, those mouse movements.
On the bright side, nobody on his team plays Pharah, so we never have
to
play Mercy.
Thank God.
Yeah, right. Thank God. All right. But you got to think, Harsha, that's really sad. We have one player who we're like, this guy totally changed it. And there's 75,000 pro players in Overwatch right now.
Yeah.
Like, come on. And there's only one that we can even bring up.
Well, if I want to, can I bring up another?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
So
we can have debates on this. Let's do this.
The other person I want to bring up is Tavik. And
yeah,
okay. I'm not saying this because I'm pretty good friends with him. But like on the other hand, like, the guy is, I think he's proficient at like the entire hero pool to an extent. I mean, if you watch him stream, you see him play pretty much whatever the team needs. It's pretty crazy. But like the other thing is he's been a top player at that level in like ever since release. Even before. He was a member of the original IDDQD team, which was dominant. Left after they had a massive win streak. Actually, this was before the NBA streak.
Yeah,
I think it's like 45 games or something like that. And then goes on to go to Rogue, wins the first ever EU LAN, which is Takeover. Then they're a top 4 EU team during that summer with Reunited, Creation, which becomes Dignitas, obviously Rogue themselves, and the last team wasn't
it Misfits?
Misfits, yeah. And towards the end of the summer, Misfits started to look like the clear #1 team in Europe, and then Rogue goes on to first defeat Envious after their 57-game win streak. They're the first team to break that, and then they Yeah, and then they win that Gamescom tournament. That's a lot of people's first exposure to Overwatch, actually. So
Yeah.
so like obviously, and this was on the back of both Tvik and AKM. I would say to an extent AKM because teams really focused Tvik heavily within this tournament, and so AKM had a lot of room to work with.
Yep.
And then later on, obviously, they lose to Misfits in the Overwatch Open, but then they go to China with the APAC Premier, and then I will argue this to the end of time, but I think Rogue wins Apex Season 1. I think Rogue wins Apex Season 1 if the metagame doesn't change. They went through Groups 3-0 and had just come off a win against
I believe it.
Against Lunatic Highs. So, like, this is a team that has been unbelievable. And then Tvik goes on to then join Misfits, obviously, with Reinforce. And while Misfits hasn't duplicated the success, hasn't even been, I would say, the best team in Europe, you can clearly still see that Tvik is like a top-level player. And, I mean, I think that having such a large hero pool, that giant diversity, plus the skill, and if you speak to him, I think he also has, like perhaps some of the best game sense. He's just some sort of, savant in that sense.
Can you hear that?
Now I can.
Okay. Ugh, God damn it, my neighbors. Anyway, sorry, continue.
It's fine. But basically, if you speak to him about the game, he just thinks about it on a different level, I would say. And I think that he's one of those people that will definitely change the game, impact it forever.
So, the only argument I have right now is that he's been a very good player. He's still probably, I would make the argument that he's still probably the best player in Overwatch because because not only of the pure skill, but also the range of skill.
And that's the thing. And more and more heroes are just going to come out, become relevant, and Overwatch is going to continue changing. Yeah.
But how has his play forced people to change how they play? Yes, like people had to focus him right, but nobody has gone like, I'm going to sit there and like watch VODs of Tvik playing X hero, and I'm just going to internalize that because he's doing something in a very different way, right? I think that I think you can make an argument that he plays all these heroes, incredibly well, but I don't necessarily think about him as, changing the way we think about those heroes.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair case, but I do think that the kind of the way he plays, he's a very resource-heavy player in that sense. He's the hard carry player too. Mm-hmm. So like I think it's fair to give him the resources. But in the same vein, he always opens up the map for his secondary hero. I know you made an article about the secondary carry of Korea. I think what I did
resource allocation, which he's a very resource-heavy player. Yeah, exactly.
And what this does is it opens up the map for Nevix a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I think that every team he's been a part of, he's made the rest of the team better in that sense because he has boosted. Obviously, we can now see AKM having that same success with Nico, Nox, and.
But the map's also being opened for him.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the critical thing, right? We've also when we speak about that, we also have to talk about how 3 players are filling what used to be a 2-person role with
that's very true.
but that's besides the point. I think that he's always made his team better, maybe in like just from a pure gameplay standpoint.
Yeah, can't really argue with that. You're correct. You're 100% correct. He is one of those players that I think that some hero is going to come out, and he probably will be the one to just like get it.
Pick it up first. Yeah.
Unfortunately, he wasn't the one to pick up Sombra. That would have been really sick. But we got we have some really amazing Korean Sombras now, so I'm not complaining too much. Did you have another player you want to bring up? Otherwise, we can move on to the next one.
I would say Taimu.
Okay.
It's
I would argue that Taimu. Oh, I don't know if I'd argue McCree. I'd argue Roadhog though.
See, what I think he's done is he's really just pushed the game in terms of just being so skilled at like specific heroes, right? Where he has really good aim, and that's why he's been a sick Widowmaker. He's been a sick Mr. Good Aim. Mm-hmm. He is a sick McCree as well, and he has been. I would say this. I think he's been kind of trapped on Roadhog a bit. In that he's been forced to play it because of the metagame, and it's just kind of evolved that way. But he has been a pretty good Roadhog. We've seen him, some of the most memorable Overwatch plays, I think, have come out of his Roadhog. Yeah. Like the, obviously the...
I think more memorable plays have come out of his Roadhog than his McCree, by far. And partially because he has played so much Roadhog, to be fair. But also because it's just... It's hard. I don't know. It's harder to.
I think I disagree there because I've actually,
Hmm.
I think like remember things like, I mean, I hate to keep sourcing BlizzCon, but like there is that one play against Russia where he had a full team
Everybody
wipe,
just
just
like
freaking.
Russia did so well, but like everybody had heroic
Everybody had
plays
these
against
huge
them.
plays against them, but
Yeah.
there's that one play where on Dorado where Taimu literally just clicks everybody's head, like, and just has a team kill on his own.
Yeah.
And then you see, it's always kind of those performances that really bring Taimu to mind, like the Widowmaker against, it wasn't, not BK Stars, was it? MVP Infinity or
The
it
Widowmaker
was
game on
it was
Dorado?
BK Stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Volskaya game where he had the crazy flick shot into the Genji on
Yes.
Volskaya. That was the one of the big ones. And then on BK Stars where he ults and kills like 3 people when they leave spawn because he sees where they're coming and just like nails it.
And then even that online series against Rogue very recently, at the Overwatch Rumble, where
Oh,
basically
yeah.
what Taimu did was he just switched to McCree and just destroyed Rogue on his own.
Yep.
Like
That's fair.
he has these just hard carry performances where you don't really see it out of any other player.
No, that's true.
'Cause, I mean, yeah, he's just that skilled.
You could make the argument that he might have to make those performances sometimes.
Absolutely,
There's
yeah.
definitely games where he's like, it's like where we watch them, especially those Widowmaker games you referenced, where they were playing against BK Stars on Dorado and Volskaya, where Taimu doesn't do that. Obviously they could have still won, but
They might not
it's
win that
definitely
series.
it's definitely much less sure that they're going to win that because he had to really step up in some of those games.
If
to get
Taimu
that
doesn't
win.
bust out that McCree, they get 3-0'd by Rogue again. Or 2-0'd. They were 2-0'd the first time. But yeah,
Yeah.
3-0'd again.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, Taimu, that's a fair one. But again, I don't know if he's changed the game. He's very good, but I don't know if he's changed
I
the
think
game.
I think it's more that he kind of exemplifies a certain style of play.
Yeah, he exemplifies a very mechanical, like heavy style of gameplay.
Yeah.
I think when you look at somebody, who am I thinking that's like? I'm trying to think of somebody now who seems like a very cerebral.
Do you mean like a cerebral? Okay.
Yeah. I think I'll probably just do Miro. Somebody who's
Yeah.
so aware of,
Yeah,
of
actually-
his positioning in relation, especially to Ryu Jahong, which is, I'm sure, partially some really good communication, but also his cooldowns, how much damage his enemies can do, how he works around his shield,
He's actually somebody I didn't want to pick him because I know I didn't want to do two lunatic high guys.
And the other thing is, Miro gets talked about so much.
Yeah, exactly. to the extent where I think he is the best Winston in the world, but even then,
Yeah.
I still feel like he's overrated.
I mean,
because
who else?
he's-
Realistically, who else would you put up against Miro to say no? They might be the best Winston.
the only person you could say is close, I would say, is Nox, and I don't think you can call Nox the second best Winston. I mean, I don't think you can call.
Oh.
Nox close. I think maybe
Yeah.
you can call him the second best Winston, but I don't think
agree
you
with
can call
that.
him.
But the
Miro.
problem is the margin there
Yeah,
is like
exactly.
really big.
But the thing about Miro, I think, is he's innovative, and we've
Yes.
seen that with his positioning. We've seen it like he finds all these little ledges that he can.
He was the first one to start doing all those little ledges, and like
Yeah.
one of the ones that I remember the most was on
Lijiang?
Lijiang, yeah, on
It was
Night Market.
Night Market,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he jumps up above the little pathway, and the enemy team just like walked out underneath him, and he just starts zapping them, and he's zapping like 5 people, and they're just like, "What the fuck? Where are we getting zapped from?" And then all of a sudden they realize
Exactly.
it's from above them because it doesn't indicate where you're getting zapped from. You just know you're being zapped. And now everybody uses that spot. And
Yeah.
everybody especially on Temple of Anubis, uses the spots that he hides in. Everybody
So-
uses them now.
I would say that he innovated the game, but I think that the problem here is that he's only done it really on one hero, and we haven't really
Definitely.
seen him. We haven't seen him step up as much on the Reinhardt. But yes, absolutely a very skilled
He's
player.
a
Okay,
better
he's got
Reinhardt than he was.
he's gotten significantly better as Reinhardt. But I would say that I don't think you're going to call Miro the best Reinhardt in the world, right?
No, you put him up against. I could name off multiple players. You put him up against, he's probably going to get smashed against Reinhardt. Kaiser, Janus, Reinforce, probably Coco. There's tons of players who would smash him in Reinhardt v Reinhardt. But the problem, and actually, this is something that I never actually got to write this article, but I wanted to write this article after the Apex Season 2 Grand Finals. And what happened is when you look at the match between Runaway and Lunatic High in the quarterfinals and then the Grand Finals. In the quarterfinals, Miro, for like the only time the whole season, spent more time playing Reinhardt that series than he did Winston. And it was the only time, right? And you look at his relative performance, and it was awful. And he was getting destroyed by Kaiser. And then in the finals, he was like 85 or something percent Winston, and he outplayed Kaiser, I think.
I think it's because they at first Runaway made Lunatic High kind of played their
That's true.
played their game,
And
whereas
Lunatic High went, eh.
yeah, towards the finals they were like, yeah, let's play our own game, So
Yeah. All right, now that we've been off topic for the past 15 minutes,
Yeah.
we can get back onto topic. But I like that sidetrack, so it's all right. So, one of the things that I talked about with people in other videos is sometimes, like, literally how you had to watch, like, live broadcasts of games. And I think that's something that in Overwatch people actually might take a little bit for granted, that we live in an era where Twitch as a broadcasting service has learned from so many other games.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's really a nice thing about how Overwatch has grown, because it grew up with Twitch. Like,
With
grew
Twitch,
up,
yep.
grew up meaning Twitch was like big at the time, and so everybody was like, "Hey, let's watch this game. It looks sick." Because Overwatch is actually like a huge game. You know,
Yeah.
everybody wanted to play it, and so, you know, there's this meme before the game started called, you know, it was Only Watch, because not that many people got into the beta.
And everyone was watching streams. Yeah.
Exactly. And so the game really grew up organically with that, in a sense, and you know, we have all these players with huge followings because of it, mainly Siegel, but obviously a lot of people also grew up like with the game, and it really
Because now IDDQD, because he had some time off from playing, he's doing really well streaming now.
Yep.
Mendo is doing a lot of streaming recently, kind of same reasons. But there's a lot of pro players that have put much more time into interacting with the community very early on in the history of the game. And
Yes.
I think you agree with me. That's pretty much strictly a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that it's like allowed them to build their brands, and especially before Overwatch League, they're in solid positions right now.
To carry
But
NRG as an org.
okay, we'll let that one slip. No, but look, like, I think that in a sense, having Twitch really helped us grow, because all of these Gosu weeklies were always at the top of the Twitch, like, the channel, and that helped the esports side grow. It's still, you know, it's still relatively small, but like good for a first year esport, I would say. But it
So this is actually something that Monty brought to my attention that I did not know, which was the VOD on OGN's YouTube channel for the Apex Grand Finals has more views than the VOD for the League of Legends Grand Finals.
Oh no, I knew this. You were gonna. Okay,
Oh, yeah?
I didn't know that was the case, but
Okay.
that's hilarious, actually.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you know, those finals were like literally just like SKT like slapping KT a bunch. and then the Apex finals were like a really epic, you know, best of 7. So,
and we do know that it's gotten incredibly big in Korea,
which is a very good thing as well.
Yeah, obviously, and like, you know, we've seen Korean fangirls buying out billboards to say happy birthday to their favorite players and stuff like that.
Apparently, that's actually pretty normal.
Really?
I think because somebody posted that on Twitter, and that went around for a while, and I can't remember who, but one of the casters in Korea, I want to say it was Proxy Wolf actually, or you know, at Proxy Wolf on Twitter, said he came out and was like, you know, that's actually fairly normal for to happen in Korea because they have such like a star,
culture.
yeah, like a star culture.
Okay.
So it does, you know, take some elevation. You can't just be anybody, you know. But
Right.
apparently it's more normal to, because here in America we think about, you know,
Nobody
somebody
would do
buying
that.
a you know, billboard space to like say happy birthday Bjergsen.
Bjergsen.
Like,
I like how we both said that.
well, yeah, of course. You know, who else would he say? Yeah. So, and that is something that is strictly positive for Overwatch, that we grew up with Twitch, and that it's so easy for people to just log on to Twitch and just watch, you know, Overwatch streamers or esports is so fantastic. It's a really good thing. So this is a topic now that you and I both hold very dear to our hearts, because this is both what we do with our lives. Because we do nothing besides watch Overwatch and talk about Overwatch. And compared to other games, in Overwatch, very, very early on, there was a plethora of like writing and video content, not so much even focused on like pure guide stuff, which is common early on in a game, but very, you know, analytic heavy, you know, Flame's doing, you know, his like in-depth breakdown of games, you know, you started doing like your Pro Tactics series, you know, I've done a couple of VOD reviews and stuff, and there's like dozens and dozens of people doing this stuff, right? And doing their own little podcasts where they kind of talk about various topics with themselves. And as we're talking with other people, this is something a little bit new, especially to this scale for so early into a game.
Yep.
And this is something that you, I'm sure, feel very dear about, because, like I said, this is what we do. How did you get into doing this content in the first place?
Well, I think I want to talk about kind of like the general reason I think why this is the case, and then I'll talk about why, I guess, later.
Okay.
But basically, I think this is the case because of the same reasons, I think, with the whole players wanting to come here and become professionals within Overwatch. I think that a lot of people saw Overwatch as a fresh opportunity, especially because the game looks really cool, and so they're like, let's try and make it here instead of the game we were originally at. I know you and I both were originally League of Legends. People like Sideshow, Admirable, even a ton of players actually were from TF2. Flame actually too. So tons of people come from older games.
I thought he was from Dota.
No, he's from TF2. But he watches Dota or something.
Oh, okay. Because I see him talking about Dota in on Discord.
Yeah, but essentially, it's kind of enabled that. And actually, you bring up Discord, which is something I also wanted to talk about. I think we've grown up with Discord where you can talk to whatever player you want to, literally at like you just type in their name and they're right there. And the whole Pro Talk, the OW, or whatever, all of this stuff has made it significantly easier to, I think, break through and actually do this kind of content. I've actually. This is kind of a tangent. I don't actually want to talk about this, so we'll move on to, I guess, how I got here. So originally I was.
No, come on. We have to talk about. You want to talk about Discord? No. So I think what you mean by that is that Discord is a relatively new phenomenon, and it's something that no other kind of major title, if you can call Overwatch a major title, grew up with. Right? They've come in now, of course, and I'm sure people use them for all sorts of games. But what you mean by this is, it's become just a thing now, or it's like accepted where. Your favorite pro player, your favorite content creator, you can go and you can just join a public Discord and you can talk with the content creator. You can talk with pro players. You can directly ask them questions kind of whenever you want. They might not always respond. Harsha doesn't always respond when I, meme in his Discord. That's fair. But, and it's something that just, it's such a unique phenomenon and it's so easy to have very direct fan interaction outside of streaming now. And it makes it a much more around the clock kind of thing where you don't have to be live to have that interaction. And I see what you mean. It's a very positive thing for the fans to be able to interact with the players because it kind of invests them more into the game.
And I think it's both a positive and a negative actually. So the reason I think it's actually made my job significantly easier. I think it's made like a lot of people's jobs significantly easier.
Journalist.
Yeah, there we go. But especially people like TOs and all of that. It's very TOs being tournament organizers. It definitely makes life easier. It's nice that you can talk to whatever pro you want to. At the same time, I think it's made everybody, kind of really friendly with each other. I wish there were more, rivalries to an extent. And I also think that it's made this is really weird to say, but I think it's made this weird kind of fan culture where everybody thinks they kind of know the streamer or the personality that they're kind of in the Discord server of. It's kind of it's really weird, but it's kind of this attitude I've noticed amongst people on Reddit and people on Discord, people on streams.
So I think what you mean by this is that traditionally esports and probably,
there's a degree of separation basically.
Yeah, but also in real sports, right? The number of people who are not in the know is much larger than the number of people who say they're in the know. And then then the number of people who say they're in the know is much smaller. Is much larger than the people who are actually in the know.
Yeah.
And what's happened is people being in these Discord servers and they see, direct messages from, whoever it is, content creator from pro player. And because crazy idea, when you're randomly typing a thought into your Discord server, it's not always like the most well thought out, worded opinion. It's not always exactly what you meant to say, but it's what you said. So people kind of see these unfiltered opinions from you. And they get this impression that they are then in the know. So this middle group of people who think they're in the know and then go on Reddit and talk like they're in the know is a lot bigger these days. Yeah,
it definitely something that's been on my mind, but not really. It's not something I care to talk about, especially because
you are perpetuating this circumstance, Harsha. You host a Discord server for casual people to join, and there's some content creators and pro players in there.
Everybody in my Discord's my friend, man.
Everybody. You have 100 friends? I don't believe it. All right. But
roasted again.
Yeah. So, but then going back to the original question was, why did you get into making content?
So originally I wanted to actually do League of Legends content because that's kind of the game I considered myself an expert in or whatever. Okay. But I mean, I played at a relatively high level. I thought I liked the game a lot, and diamond. Yeah, relatively high. Top 1% is different from top 99%. Yeah, okay. But definitely like wanted to get into making content in that game, but at some point in time, I kind of just got really tired of the game, and it just wasn't as fun to me. And at the same time, I saw Overwatch coming out. I was watching all these streams. I actually saw Seagull stream, which is the big one that got me into the game. And in that same vein, like I was like, hey, this game kind of looks really cool. I'm going to sign up for the beta and try and actually do something with it. And so I grinded really heavily to like watch all the Gosu tournaments and watch all the VODs as I could during like the month kind of leading up to release, like and that April as well. And I was like, okay, I want to be able to write about this game as soon as it comes out and like kind of make a name within it. I didn't actually start writing about it till maybe June-ish, I
was
think.
going to say, because I don't remember seeing any of your stuff until later.
Right. So I didn't actually start writing until late June, I think, is when it happened, and that's because I applied to Gosu Gamers, and because Gosu Gamers was hosting all of the tournaments. So I was like, okay, this is a cool opportunity since they're hiring like volunteer writers. I'm not looking.
Some sick Skrilla at Gosu Gamers.
Yeah, the sick. All right, we'll ignore that. And then
you got so many exposure dollars.
Yeah, love exposure.
Love exposure dollars. You can't put a price on it.
It was really nice though, because I found out about Pro Talk this way, and this is how I managed to like
become a journalist.
Exactly. Like I could talk to all these people. I could be even become friends with pros. Like it was this weird thing, but basically that's kind of where I got my start, and then eventually started writing on my own after that, and then went on to over.gg.
How long did you spend writing articles on Medium? Didn't you do a few articles on Medium before you went to Over?
2 months, I believe.
2 months? Okay.
Yeah, but I was mostly just like writing there until I found a place because I wanted to keep writing about Overwatch.
Yeah,
right?
No, and that's what you're supposed to do. You just publish them wherever you can. I was kind of on the other side of the coin where I was lucky enough to. Okay, this is like I'm trying to think. So back during League of Legends, I wrote a few articles for a website called Gold Pretend, which was founded by this guy Ryan Tang, and in this weird chain of events, I went to college with a guy who went to high school with a guy who knew Ryan Tang. So through this like crazy chain of events, I made all these friends and like met Ryan Tang. And he founded this website, Gold Pretend, where essentially anybody could publish your content. And Thorin famously, after the whole, I think it was I can't remember which website, he like kind of whatever happened, he stopped writing for them. He started writing for Gold Pretend. I think it was On Gamers, yeah. On Gamers. And he started writing for Gold Pretend. So that website actually kind of started taking off, realistically because Thorn was writing there, guys. Not because my League of Legends articles were so insightful. And I started writing there, and then after that I started working as an analyst for some League of Legends teams, and it kind of stepped back from writing. And then when I wanted to start writing in Overwatch, I knew that Gold Pretend had been purchased by Gamers.com. And I assumed, I don't know why I assumed this, but that Gamers.com still had the same kind of business model where they let anybody publish, right? They like read it through to make sure it wasn't like, racist, like homophobic, material.
Oh God.
But they didn't really filter your opinions. They didn't really edit it, And then as I found out, Gamers was a little bit more professional than that. They had editors. They had a head of content. So I was like trying to publish an article through their site, and they were like, "Who are you?" So, and then eventually they read it, they thought, I wasn't complete crap, and ended up getting hired by them, and then I went through .now. And much like you, and much like many other, content creators, even content creators who are much more well-known than you and I, who would say that, they've made it more than you and I think the reason that we all got into it is because I don't think for really anybody who I can think of, Overwatch is our first game, right? I know a ton of people who League of Legends or Counter-Strike, Global Offensive are their first esports, right? I know a ton of people who StarCraft 2 was their first esport, right? But I don't really know anybody who that's the case for Overwatch. So many content creators came out of these other scenes where we had kind of tried, but we really got nowhere because let's be real, we were shit. Like, let's be real. Some of the stuff that we were doing was really bad. And because there were much more established people who were much better who were making content, so we just couldn't compete.
Well, that's the thing, because this Overwatch is kind of like the new opportunity, the big one. Everybody was coming in fresh, without the their previous success, kind of, and so it was or lack thereof. Exactly. So it was kind of like this opportunity to establish your own name, and in a place that didn't have any names yet.
Yeah, and in a weird way, that really did heavily contribute to and some of the awesome content we have today in Overwatch. And I don't think it's I know it's not any big secret. Flames like tweeted it multiple times that like even he was like inspired by Thorin, and he said like one of his like career goals was to be on an analyst desk with Thorin, and like hell, why not, right? That seems like a cool career goal. And so we were just inspired by kind of like this previous generation of people, and now we're all here trying to see what we can do. So now we're getting to the questions that I tried to end all the other videos on, and I'll end these ones as well. In other games, I asked them what was their favorite thing that their game did that's not happening in Overwatch, that we want to see happen in Overwatch. So I got some good answers. So this time I'll flip it around. And what do you kind of just in general not see Overwatch doing that you want to see Overwatch do, as either as a game or as an esport, right? Maybe you have a balance problem. Maybe you think that we need more Jeff Kaplan memes.
Love me some memes. Love me some r/Overwatch.
Yeah, that's why you headed a petition against r/Overwatch.
Yeah, yeah, I did it out of love.
That's true. Out of love for the real heart of the game.
Yeah, and so okay, I'm going to name 3 things, and I guess that's like all of them are things I want to see, or things that we're not doing that I think we should do. One, I just made a joke about our Overwatch, but I definitely think that it needs to be.
It's a legitimate concern.
And they are actually testing out like self-post only rules and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the like play the game highlight mega threads every day, which is like fantastic because it frees up 19 slots on your front page for other content.
And I think, not even. I mean, you might have been lowballing it with 19.
Probably, because it's probably more like 23 out of 25 normally.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be a hub for all of Overwatch, not just Overwatch memes and Overwatch GIFs and all of that. And one thing that's an obvious thing. So next thing, minimap, or just spectator features in general.
Thank you. But specifically, he means minimap for the spectating client.
Yes,
not for in-game. Yeah.
Yes, I think that you need to make it much easier for the spectator. I think you need an improved HUD. The HUD right now is way too glossy, like clear. It's hard to see things. I think you need to streamline it, make it a bit like stuff smaller, but like still visible. I think you need to add a mini map so we can actually see what's going on. I think obviously like camera angles, all of that stuff, it'll work itself out. I think with Monty Cristo and Doa helping out.
Cristo.
I said Monty and Cristo, yeah. But I think with these guys helping out, and bringing in their expertise in other games, I think it could definitely, we could see steps in the right direction here.
So somebody who I can't remember how long ago it was, a reasonable amount of time ago now, who put out this like really like basic like overlay for what Overwatch could look like. Alchemist, yeah. Jason Baker. He is a producer, yeah, and he did. I'm trying to remember. He's like
E-League, Overwatch
MLG. I think he did. He used to work for. I feel like he did ESL. He worked for like a ton of people, right? He's been doing this for a very long time. He's probably one of the better ones out there, and he proposed this like stupidly simple thing where like it just says the player's name like next to the icon of the hero, and like this like incredibly simple stuff where you're like, wow, that would
looks
make
better.
It easier, and it would make it easier for a casual fan to watch and be like, okay, wait, hold on. Who am I spectating? They can recognize right from playing the game. Okay, this is Pharah's arm, right? Or this is Tracer's arms. So I know it's the hero, but then who's playing that hero? And it just says right there.
Yeah, big. I mean, definitely a lot of people proposing good solutions. I think, and I'm sure. Look, I'm sure Blizzard's not going to be dumb. I think they're going to listen.
Yeah.
And I think it'll happen in time for Overwatch League. Maybe. I mean, ideally it would happen before. We don't know if it will, but we just have to wait. Like kind of like all of Overwatch, just have to wait and see. But
it could be done now. We just don't know because everybody who does know, like when I talked to Doa and Monty, both of them, somehow their NDAs came up. I don't know.
True. So the last thing I want to see, and this is kind of the biggest one, I want to see that. I want Overwatch League not to be the only thing that they focus on. I want there to be an open circuit. I want to see more E-Leagues. I want to see more MLGs. I want to see more, I want to even see like summits, stuff like that. I want to see all of these cool tournaments that they can do in like, the half of the year or whatever amount of time that they have not to do Overwatch League. And then I want to see Overwatch League be this awesome event that takes place every year as well. And I forgot to mention Apex.
Who is they? You said I want to see, I don't want to see Overwatch be the only thing that they focus on. Do you mean Blizzard?
Oh yeah. Blizzard.
Okay, because I think that's kind of Blizzard's intention, is that honestly it sounds now like Overwatch League and the World Cup will be their focuses. And the rest of the year, it's not that they're, restricting Overwatch as an esport, but the rest of the year, they're going to let all these other really awesome tournament organizers do their stuff.
And I don't mind Overwatch League being the big event every year.
Yeah,
I don't think that's there's a problem with that. I think that's cool. I want to see like the regular content they do. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's going to be so big that it blows everything out of the water, given the the accurate projections we've received. But
75,000 pros.
Yeah, and yeah, good stuff. 75,000 pros,
$20 million.
75,000 pros and 77,000 average viewers, and all this good stuff.
Yeah,
like,
stuff.
I mean, I think that they will try and include an open circuit. I really hope that they don't make Overwatch League the only thing, but I think having an open circuit is just necessary. I think it keeps the game fresh. You can, rotate between what you want to see,
and teams can take a break if they
exactly.
Want.
That's the big thing, actually.
So we don't get player burnout. So especially in League of Legends, where if you are SKT, if you are TSM, if you are G2, if you're a team that's if you sit atop your region and you go to MSI, you go to Worlds, you get in the off season an invite to IEM, right? You are playing 10 to 11 months out of the year. And it's so silly because I hear people say this all the time where it's like, yeah, but most people work 10 to 11 months, right? They maybe get 3-4 weeks of vacation. But guys, nobody works 10, 12 hours a day, 6-7 days a week and travels and goes to tournaments and plays in high pressure situations and stuff for 11 months out of the year. Nobody does that.
You don't love Overwatch the same way if you're playing it all the time, basically.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people who will be watching this episode probably have more fun playing Overwatch casually because they can play they can play it casually. Right?
They can take it less seriously, yeah.
Than a lot of pros do. That's not to say that pros don't have fun with it. Obviously they enjoy it to a certain extent.
They have to.
Otherwise they would just stop.
Yeah.
But a lot of people probably enjoy it more as a casual game because they can enjoy it casually. So the ultimate question, Harsha. Considering that we are 1 year into the official release, not including beta, of Overwatch, is Overwatch healthy?
See, I want to say yes and no. I have multiple answers for this. Healthy in the sense that I think this is where we're supposed to end up within Blizzard's kind of framework. I think that this is fair. I honestly, if I'm being honest, I don't want to make Blizzard mad or anything about this, but I think that they were purposefully trying to keep Overwatch, a bit smaller in terms of restricting all these tournament licenses and all of that stuff. In terms of I don't think they wanted it to become huge at first. I think they wanted to release features with Overwatch League and make this the big event that everything's building up to.
Yeah.
I think that without Blizzard kind of interfering with tournaments in terms of introducing these weird rule sets, in terms of not allowing some tournaments to run, tournament organizers to run tournaments.
Yeah,
I think that in that sense, no, it's not healthy. But I think that they have a reason that they're doing this, and I think we just kind of
what that reason. The theory. I think Monty said this theory, or I heard it somewhere else. I'm pretty sure it was Monty. And because, as Monty said in that episode, I'll remind everybody he is not a Blizzard spokesperson. This was speculation. And his kind of speculation, and his speculation, he's more directly related with Blizzard than pretty much any of us. So I'll take it. He basically said that he thinks because Blizzard is so interested in going after some of the highest profile investors that we've really ever seen in esports, they want to make sure that the product that does get out there with Overwatch is very polished. So you think about the people who have put on events like E-League, fucking amazing, right? Blizzard themselves at the World Cup, fucking amazing. OGN, probably the industry standard. OGN has amazing production and all sorts of silly side content and stuff.
Yeah.
So they've kind of limited it. Yes, they have limited it, and yes, it's hurt a little bit, guys. But the big events that we have had have been relatively, for considering how young the game is, very polished, and they've been very good. And there's been a lot of lamenting around that there has been kind of this limit of events, right? And some people say that Overwatch isn't healthy because of these lack of events. But seriously, guys, now when we tell stories about Overwatch, right? When I write storyline pieces about Overwatch, when, you know, some of your storyline pieces about Overwatch, right? How many of them do you look at an online series of games and go, holy shit, this was one for the history books?
Rarely.
Incredibly rarely.
Don't think it's happened online.
Yeah, I can't think of a single online series. There were good online series, don't get me wrong. There were online series that I watched because I heard they were really entertaining, so I went back and watched. There have been online games that I've heard, dude, you need to check this play out, and I went back and watched them because they were good plays. But the games that are for the history books have always, every single time so far in Overwatch, been on LAN stages because the pressure is higher, the stakes are higher, you know, the players are more invested. Stuchu put it in the Dota 2 episode. The difference between playing online and going to a LAN is when you play online, the player rolls out of bed, gets on his computer, and plays the game, right?
Yeah, right.
When you go to a LAN, you boot camp with your team for weeks. You prepare for the team that you're going to play against. You pack all your shit. You get on a plane. You fly to the event. You get to the hotel. You get to a practice room at the event. And then you go on stage and you play in front of people who are watching you. And you know if you fuck up, they're all watching you. And it just matters more. The stakes are higher. You know, people make mistakes. People get nervous on LAN. That's just not something that happens online. So, and just because of it, and because all of the hype, and because quite literally the flashing lights and the, you know, the stage itself, the series that have been for the history book so far, and there's been quite a few really good ones, you know, like especially, you know, the grand finals for Apex. Nobody's going to argue against that one, you know. They were LAN events, and they were amazing series.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't really buy the argument that us missing out on a few weekly or monthly online events is going to seriously hurt the history of Overwatch in the long run. I just don't buy it.
I don't think so either. I look, I do wish there were more LAN events, but at the same time, at the same time, I think I kind of see it from Blizzard's perspective, even though I don't like it. I just, you know.
And the reason why is because we love Overwatch and we want to see more.
Yeah, I want to see more of it.
We want to see more, but to be fair, I also only want to see more of the good Overwatch.
Yeah.
Of like top tier teams playing each other on LAN events, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I think the ultimate conclusion that I've kind of reached through this whole series of videos now, talking to all the people I've talked to, and talking with you now, I've kind of reached the conclusion that we're not 100% sure if Overwatch is healthy. Because unfortunately, and I went into this project thinking that I was going to come out the other side kind of with an answer, right? And the problem is that all the answers I've gotten so far, it's how you define it. On one hand, when you compare Overwatch quite literally 1 year after the official release to pretty much any other game, you're like, holy shit, you know, there's this massive league on the horizon that does not happen in games 1 year old, right? It just doesn't. But then when we think about Overwatch in its own context, and we think about what we want for the game, we look at it and go, but it's not quite there yet. We don't have regular LAN events. Overwatch League isn't here yet, you know.
And it's because obviously I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, standards changing. We're
Definitely.
in a different point in time from, like, you know, all the other games you've spoken about. So, like, yeah, I don't think there's a clear set in stone you know, answer to this, but like all Overwatch things, it depends on the Overwatch League.
It depends on the Overwatch League.
Yeah.
But the wonderful news that I have walked away with, especially with the episodes that I've done with that I did with Doa and Monty, were that there's a very, 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 very hopeful message for the Overwatch League, that we have faith that it is going to succeed. You know, I think you and I, we both personally have faith that it will succeed. I believe that it will. I hope that it will, and I want to see what can happen with it. So I don't know if we all believe that Overwatch is where we want it to be right now. I think we know it's not where we want it to be, but I don't think it's in danger of going anywhere. It's going to be here for the long haul, guys. Blizzard is obviously very committed to the long haul. That's going to be the series.